from our 7 Tasmania studios. Your nightly news with Peter Murphy begins now.
Tasmania's hospitality industry is reaching a crisis point during one of its worst winter periods in a decade. Already facing rising costs, up to 3/4 of hotel rooms in some regions are sitting empty.
Winters are always quieter for tourism businesses like Hobart's Maylands Lodge, but this year's had a particular bite.
Definitely this winter it's been softer, but having the 2 properties, we can tell the one in the region, which is only 40 minutes from Hobart City, is softer again than in the city itself.
The latest hotel occupancy data has alarm bells ringing in the industry. In June, just over half of hotel rooms around the state were booked, the worst winter since the pandemic and just shy of a 10-year low.
A lot of business costs are going up, like insurance, energy, all those sort of things. Beer exhaust again today. They have been doing it tough for a number of months. The
scaling back of dark mofo this year may be partly to blame, but the issue is far broader. The southern region is actually faring best. 64% of rooms were booked in June, slightly fewer in the north. But on the east coast, the occupancy rate was just 40%, while barely a third of rooms in northwest were filled. Additional capacity with the new Spirit of Tasmania vessels may help.
I mean, you're talking about a 40% increase, so they can't come quick enough for our industry right around the state, and especially the north and northwest coast.
But when they'll start taking bookings is anyone's guess.
How is it that we'll have these new spirits in Tasmanian waters ready to go, but we haven't actually started the wharf infrastructure that allows them to operate?
The fear is many businesses won't survive another quiet off-season.
Our government's looking to do more in terms of what we can do to drive winter tourism. That's why it's so important that we're backing in our own team in the AFL, because it is a huge driver of winter-based tourism.
The industry says more immediate support and a plan for next winter are needed now.
Some sort of voucher scheme again, particularly focused for some of the areas doing it tough, to trying to give them a bit of a kick along. We're open to any of those sort of things to trying to make sure that we can get the numbers up.
Nick Kelly, 7 Tasmania News.
There's been another delay in the hearing of the disgraced former teacher accused of harassing 2021 Australian of the Year Grace Tame on social media. The Hobart Magistrates Court heard Nicholas Ockert Bester has been diagnosed with vascular dementia, meaning he is unfit for the 2-day trial. Mr Bester will return to court later this month. Convicted killer Darren Mark Wake has lodged an appeal against a 26-year jail sentence after he was found guilty of murdering his former partner Rachel Wake in a brutal attack on Christmas Day 3 years ago. Ms Wake suffered 17 stab wounds to the chest and face. The 62-year-old's lawyers arguing his jail term was manifestly excessive. Wake is currently eligible to apply for parole in 2038. A letter signed by 50 present and former UTAS academics has been delivered to the Premier this morning. Members of the Save UTAS group officially showing its support for a government bill which could block a potential sale of the Sandy Bay campus. The group says refurbishing existing STEM facilities rather than moving is more cost and time effective.
But if we don't have a university that brings in the best and the brightest and trains them, the state, as in the long run, will lose because our best and brightest will leave.
The Greens today indicating they would also support the legislation while Labor remains opposed. With the state's housing crisis deepening, local charities are now turning to the community for a helping hand. They're calling for more targeted action from all levels of government as National Homelessness Week highlights the harsh reality of those sleeping rough.
The number of Tasmanians without a roof over their head is soaring, and it's some of our youngest left out in the cold.
Young people are overrepresented in our homeless community in Tasmania, and it's not good enough.
Close to 40% of the state's homeless population are under the age of 25. And with more being iced out of the private rental market, there's growing calls for young Tasmanians' housing needs to be prioritised.
We need a targeted, age-appropriate housing response to meet their unique needs.
Overstretched charities are raising the alarm, exposing the harsh reality vulnerable locals are facing this National Homelessness Week.
What we're seeing is parents going without meals so they can feed the kids, just seeing unprecedented demand of people just looking for extra help.
Urging the community to step up and be part of the solution.
There's a sense of urgency here that we should all feel, really, that our fellow people, our neighbours, our relatives could be facing homelessness.
To spark that response, Hobart City Mission is opening up its safe space this weekend, shining a light on the experiences of those sleeping rough.
We tugged on people's heartstrings, and it could just be a small extra bag of groceries when you're doing your shopping that week, and it makes a huge difference.
Victoria Risto, 7 Tasmania News.
A Lylea man has died after a horror incident involving an ATV last week. It's understood the 50-year-old was herding livestock on Thursday before emergency services were called to the private property. Reports were he was seriously injured. WorkSafe is investigating the incident with a coroner's report to be prepared. Tasmania Police's Special Operations Group has increased its capabilities, with the team doubling in size and made full-time. From searches to sieges, the squad is ready to take on any incident, providing more support to frontline officers right across the state.
They are highly trained, highly skilled operatives, serving the Tasmanian community for decades. Until now, Tasmania's Special Operations Group has been a part-time force to reckon with. But with 10 more officers joining the ranks, today they're operating at full strength.
The benefit of having a full-time SOG allows us to deploy to serious incidents in the community in a more timely and a more rapid manner.
The specialist squad of 20 ready for anything, from planned searches for firearms to incidents where Tasmanian lives are at risk.
And they're also available for those siege-type situations.
These are phenomenal operators, highly skilled, highly trained, and they're capable of taking on the worst possible jobs that we see in our communities.
Providing some reassurance to those in blue.
They have great capabilities, great knowledge, skills and expertise, and that also provides a level of comfort to our frontline staff as well.
Ready to assist not just communities in Tasmania, but those interstate.
If we deploy to another jurisdiction, we can also fit in seamlessly, and that's because we train together on a national scale.
With reports of crime rising in recent years, the government says it's another step in ensuring the public's safety.
Our Special Operations Group, a crook's worst nightmare. They've got the firepower to deal with anything.
Lily Thompson, 7 Tasmania News.
The state's 2023-24 fire permit period will officially draw to a close when restrictions are lifted on King Island from 2 o'clock tomorrow morning. Following a review of soil and drought conditions, the Tasmania Fire Service says fire risks in the area have significantly decreased. Landowners are still urged to register planned burns and consider the weather conditions. Former Greens leader Bob Brown and 2 other activists have been found guilty of trespass. The 78-year-old, along with co-accused Christy Lee Alger and Karen Weldrick, pleaded not guilty after they were arrested in November 2022 while protesting against forest logging at the Eastern Tiers west of Bicheno. The trio are now looking to seek criminal prosecution against Forestry Tasmania, accusing the body of cutting down a swift parrot nesting tree in the same area. All 3 will return to court on August 14 for sentencing, where they are expected to appeal. One of Launceston's fastest growing suburbs has been given the green light for further expansion. The finalised St Leonard's structure plan will help guide the delivery of 3,500 new homes over the next 30 years.
It's been a time frame that we're looking at. It allows us to plan on a scale where we can put in the foundational investments to make this one of the best places to live in Launceston, if not Tasmania.
It's going to be able to provide services and further connection to our northern suburbs and further into the city, and it's just a really great opportunity.
The next stage of the development has been made possible by a $327,000 federal government grant. Launceston's answer to Antiques Roadshow is back for another year. A team of experts dropping by Duquesne Brewery for Curators in the Pub. It's a free event where members of the public can bring in objects from around the home to find out whether they're junk or a gem.
It can be a family heirloom, it can be something they found in their shed, it can be something they've owned for years and they don't know what it is or what it does.
Well, that's this Wednesday. The following week, the experts will help decode historic photographs. A group of pint-sized puppet masters is preparing to perform a special show based on their experiences in Tasmania. The Chinese primary school students are part of a long-running program fostering a better understanding of our state.
All the way from Shanghai, these students are putting on a show.
Was found by the big boss.
This shadow puppetry performance at the Peacock Theatre, the result of 7 days of intense study about our island state.
So they've interviewed a member of the Tasmanian Aboriginal community, they've interviewed some children from our Bura Street primary school, so they've really got a great sense of what it is to live here in Australia.
Like a short period of time, but we still create enough for us, so that makes me very proud.
Behind the scenes, there's a lot going on. These performers using Tassie's animals and landscapes to inspire their show. In particular, the Eastern curlew, which travels from China to Australia.
All very excited to see all these very special animals only you can see in Tasmania, in Australia, and we bring lots of these animal characters in our shows.
But it's no holiday. This group now headed to perform at the Sydney Opera House.
A well-known landscape like a culture institution, I think this is a real opportunity for the Chinese audience to really share their voice.
But back in Tassie, a future focus on similar programs to entice international students here, expected to draw a standing ovation.
It's a hopeful way to interact with the world, and so I think the more that we can put value on art and culture, especially for children and young people, the better.
Ruby Cairns, 7 Tasmania News.
In the TSL, Lauderdale showing their premiership hopes are still alive without injured star Sam Siggins. Jordan Lane and Michael Blackburn both booting 5 goals apiece against Glenorchy as the Bombers all but snuffed out the Magpies' hopes of stealing the last finals berth.
That win on the weekend, that's clinched finals for us. Every training session, every game from here on end's just a stepping stone for once that first week of finals rolls around, we're ready to go.
Nat Franklin takes the 3 votes from that game in the Cripps Player of the Year, ahead of 5-goaler Jordan Lane. 3 for Tyson Hanslow in Claris's 118-point win over Launceston, while North Launceston's Michael Stengel jumps to the top of the leaderboard with top billing from their win over the Demons. Back on home soil and now back on top. Hobart driver Alex Peroni holding off a fast-finishing Jaden Odeja to clinch his first Australian victory since leaving for Europe, winning by 0.4 of a second at Race Queensland.
Had the traffic in turn 2 and I saw Jaden right on my bum and started to get a bit nervous, but I knew I just had to keep calm and brought it to the finish.
Peroni narrowly escaping this carnage earlier in the race. That's Sports Night, Murph, although I notice you haven't been wearing your Swans tie lately. Have you lost it?
Mate, no time to reflect on any of that. We're running out of time. Can't make any comment. Thanks for that. Kyle Wicks joins us after the break with the weather forecast.
Good evening. Hobart, Bushy Park and Smithton taking out the state's top today with 16. Launceston and Devonport 14 and 15 the high for Burnie. 15 also recorded on King and Marai Island. St Helens, Friendly Beaches and Grove. 14 the top for Flinders Island, Low Head and Strawn, and 8 the maximum for Lyowini. Patchy low-level cloud is seen here about much of the state, particularly this morning. A weak frontal cloud band approaches the west of Tasmania, while mid to high-level cloud sits over most of New South Wales and parts of southern Queensland. Tomorrow, ridge will move over central and southern eastern parts of the mainland as the cold front approaches the west coast of the state. Northwesterly winds 20 to 30 knots, reaching upward of 40 knots about the south and central west in the afternoon and evening, with westerly swells increasing to 5.5 metres. We have a gale warning for coastal waters between Tasman Island to Sandy Cape, and also a strong wind warning for remaining waters to include the southwest lakes. 15 and partly cloudy in Hobart tomorrow, Adventure Bay, a couple of showers 14, increasing showers in Tarraleah with 10 the high. Wet and windy conditions expected for the north with 13 the forecast for Launceston, Devonport and Bridport. Back to wintry conditions in the west, 13 for Burnie, the same for Strawn, although they're expecting a possible storm, and 14 for Marrawar. A bit of cloud for St Helens, 14, similar conditions in Swansea, 15, increasing showers, and 14 on the way for Whitemark. Looking further into the week now, Wednesday, showers about the west, far south and Bass Strait Islands, extending further west and north in the evening. Thursday, light showers about the north and west, increasing later. And Friday, showers will persist about the north and west with light possible showers elsewhere. Sydney 18, tomorrow possible showers also likely in Brisbane 24, partly cloudy in Adelaide and Melbourne 21, developing showers on the way for Perth. Hobart, 11 degrees right now, mostly clear in Launceston with 9 and 11 also for Devonport. That's Monday night tonight.
Thanks very much for that, Kai. I wasn't joking earlier. Our time is up. I'll be back later with updates, but for now, thanks for joining us and good night.